David Polatis here. Just a reminder, I am here because whole food plant-based diet is what saved my life. Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to make bread, which may not seem like a big deal, but you know, during this COVID pandemic, I think many of you probably noticed what left the shelves first, and that was bread and toilet paper. How toilet paper became a staple is a mystery to me, but those were the things that left the shelf. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to make my 3-ingredient bread. And many of you may have seen this recipe, and maybe some of you have made this, but I actually start from the very beginning. I start off with regular whole wheat berry. This is something that I've had in storage. This wheat berry is probably 6 years old, so I've had it stored in food storage, and during COVID I broke it out. And I actually have a wheat grinder that actually grinds the wheat. So here I have what happens when you take wheat berry and grind it into whole wheat, which some people may find interesting. So the first thing we're going to do in making this bread is we're going to take 4 cups. And by the way, the reason I'm hitting this is because when you make flour from whole wheat, it has a tendency to get airy. So we're trying to get a lot of the air out. We're going to take 4 cups of whole wheat flour, put it in our bowl.
So it's important to have the full 4 cups.
Yes, the full 4 cups. It's again, you know, nothing is really science here. I'm looking for a consistency, but we're going to take 4 cups, put it in our bowl. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take 1/4 of a teaspoon of yeast, and I make it a little bit heaping. When we're dealing with whole wheat, we want our yeast to be active as well. I'm also going to take a teaspoon of just regular table salt. You can use sea salt, Himalayan salt. This is an added ingredient. This is just regular unsweetened applesauce. And I'm going to take roughly 1/2 cup of unsweetened applesauce, and I'm going to put it into the mix. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stir this around. You want to get your dry ingredients mixed around, all that salt and yeast in there. We're just going to mix it around. Make sure it's nice and, I guess, even with the salt and the yeast and the applesauce. Get it all mixed there. By the way, the applesauce, even though it's unsweetened, the sweetness from the apples is going to help activate that yeast. And then we're going to take about 14 ounces of water. Now, I don't pour it all in there at one time. We're just going to slowly roll that in there, fold that water into the flour and the yeast and the salt and the applesauce. Slowly mix it around.
No, so no blender, no nothing like that. Just
No.
hand mix it together.
No, this is a Pioneer bread, they call it. I don't think the Pioneers had anything electric.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
yeah, so it's just very simple. So we're going to get that water all mixed around in there, folded around.
Looks simple, very simple.
It is very simple.
I got to tell you, Dave, I've been doing this now, and I'm not perfect because I've cheated, but I can feel the energy levels. I can feel my blood pressure's back under control. You've seen me. I've texted you pictures of my blood pressure just looking at it, saying I haven't seen that in a long time. For those that don't know, you know, I was on keto for a long time, and then me and Dave started talking, and we started talking about these, you know, why it's not working and what's going on here. And so he says, hey, Paul, you should try this. And that's how this all started. And he survived cancer with this. And now I just want to get my blood pressure and get off all these medications. And so that's why I'm really studying this, and I'm enjoying it. I've learned.
Well, and you know that we, on our agenda, we're going to include my, I have a younger sister. We're going to include her in a part of this conversation as well. I literally picked her up at the airport some 35 days ago. They wheeled her out in a wheelchair. She left 3 weeks later on her own. In fact, had bowled the night before. So.
And that's just all because of whole food.
You are what you eat. And in fact, I don't know that she'll mind me sharing this with you, but when she showed up, she had 25 prescription drugs that she's taking.
Yeah, I believe you texted me. That was unbelievable. I said, nobody takes that many pills. That was crazy.
She takes 25 prescription pills every day. She's been diagnosed with a number of illnesses, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, the list goes on and on. But she's down to five prescriptions now.
That's crazy.
And the goal is 0. Now, you'll notice what we've done here. We've got a consistency now that we're looking for. It's held together. It's kind of like a clay almost.
Okay, so 14 ounces of water, 4 cups of flour. Now, I could, if I don't want to grind my flour, where would I pick it up?
You can just buy a bag of whole wheat flour.
Okay.
Unbleached whole wheat flour.
Okay.
You can get it at almost any market.
Okay.
The reason I went to this much trouble is because during the whole COVID thing, you go to the store and there's no bread. So bread seems to be a staple in most households. So I had wheat berry. I went ahead and ground it. I thought, you know what, let's just start from scratch. And that's. In fact, you could actually take apples and make applesauce if you wanted to. Just throw them in your blender and now you've got applesauce. So it's just interesting. Now, here's the thing about this type of bread. Again, I'm not going to give you advice with respect to some of your health conditions, but I have a gal in my office who is intolerant to gluten. And of course, gluten is a protein in whole grain that many people can't digest. It causes them excruciating pain, fatigue, all kinds of side effects. She can eat this bread. Now, the reason being is this will sit for the next 18 hours covered. I'll take a piece of cellophane, I'll cover this, and it'll sit for the next 18 hours and rise. During that 18-hour period of time, what happens is the wheat, and that includes the gluten, starts to break down over that period of time. And this is the reason why she's able to eat this bread without being sick, is because the gluten actually breaks down.
And in the real breads, everything has to work much faster, so it doesn't have time to break down.
Yeah, I mean, we want things yesterday. That's the
yeah, right.
So what I do is I typically make at least 2 loaves of bread at a time. I use a Dutch oven, and we're gonna do this moving forward. Take a porcelain-lined Dutch oven. After this is risen 18 hours, we'll bake it in the Dutch oven at 450 degrees for 30 minutes, and then we'll bake it another 15 minutes with the lid off, and you'll see the results. So yesterday we ground our wheat, made flour, mixed our dough, and we let the bread rise for 24 hours. You can do it anywhere from 12 is the minimum. 18 is probably ideal. This is the bread that we made yesterday, sitting here on the counter, but I'm going to open up the oven now. What we did is we baked this for a half an hour with the lid on the Dutch oven, and then we took the lids off and let it brown for another 15 minutes. Now, you don't have to put parchment paper down. I just like it. It's easier for cleanup, so I'll typically roll my dough out on parchment paper and set it into the Dutch oven. And the parchment paper can get brittle, as you can see if it's exposed to the heat directly. And there are our loaves, piping hot. Now, I figured this out because my wife likes to give these loaves away at Christmas as neighbor gifts. So I sat down one day just to figure out what the cost was with the raw materials. About 60 cents a loaf is what it costs you to make a loaf of bread. Yeah. All right, so now you have your bread. We're going to let that sit on the cooling rack there for about 15 minutes before we cut it. What I'm going to do right now, put my Dutch ovens back in the heat, and we are going to lay out the other loaves. So we're kind of doing this in reverse order, if you will. What I'm going to do here is, again, take parchment paper.
And you don't need to use the parchment paper, but
You don't need it. Like I said, for me, it's just easier for cleanup because I don't have to worry about the dough sticking to the ovens. I'll bet I haven't washed those Dutch ovens in 2 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just because I continually use the parchment paper. So here's the dough, if you'll recall, we made yesterday. We're just going to take it, reach in there, scoop that dough out with the bowl onto the parchment paper. I'm going to do both. I do 2 loaves at a time because I can fit 2 ovens inside my oven, 2 Dutch ovens inside. So I like to cook them 2 at a time. Actually, at Christmas time, when I'm making some 30 loaves, I can fit a third Dutch oven in there. So, all right.
And if you don't have a Dutch oven, what else could you cook them in, Dave?
Well,
Just a baking pan?
I don't know that is going to do the trick. The reason being is these ovens actually hold the heat. They heat up themselves
Inside. So you need a Dutch oven.
Yeah. In fact, that's probably something I need to mention. You want to put your Dutch ovens inside your oven at 450 degrees for about 30 minutes before you even put your bread in them to get them good and hot. All right, so we're going to put the lids on, like so. Push them back in there. We're going to set our timer, 30 minutes. And then again, at the end of that 30 minutes, we're going to pull the lids off, let them go for another 15 minutes, and then we have...
So it's 45 minutes total cooking time, 30 minutes with the lids on, 15 minutes with them off.
Correct.
All right, we'll put that in the description too. We'll put all of the how this is made in the description down here. So if you've got a question about it, you can just look in the description here and we'll put it in there for you.
All right. So we probably want to cut into this, don't we, Paul?
Crazy.
So let's go ahead and see what we've done here. So I've got a cutting board. You can see the heat coming off of it. There's our bread. I like peanut butter on my hot bread. Let's stick a little peanut butter. I also am, I like the heel.
We're both the same.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. My wife doesn't like. I love it.
I like the crunchy part of the bread.
Yeah, so do I.
So we'll put a little peanut butter on there. Looks like Paul and I are going to have a battle over who gets that.
You made it. You can have it.
Well, there's the other end, I guess. In fact, it's not unusual to walk in my kitchen and see a loaf of bread like this, and I cut
All 4.
them off.
That's awesome.
So there you go. That is homemade Dutch oven bread. Love it.
Mm.
If you want to sweeten it up, get your favorite no sugar added jelly or jam.
I forgot to ask you yesterday. The applesauce, what does that do, and does it you know, is it justified going buy some applesauce to?
Well, especially when you're doing a whole grain bread like this, you want to activate the yeast. And sugar activates the yeast.
Okay.
So the sugar in the applesauce will activate the yeast. It also makes the bread fluffier for whatever reason, mixing that applesauce in there. So activated yeast, the applesauce together. If I'm using just a regular processed flour, I won't necessarily put applesauce in it. But when you're using a whole grain, it's a heavier flour. I find that the applesauce makes it a lot fluffier and tastier too. It's a sweeter bread.
That is amazing. The taste of it is just kind of like those pancakes. You have me hooked on these pancakes now. The bread is going to be next. I can feel it.
Okay, so here we go. It's been 30 minutes. We're going to take the lids off now for another 15 minutes. You can see they started to brown nicely. And then we're going to stick that back in there. And in 15 minutes, we'll take them out. And clock is set. David Polatis, thanks for watching. Remember, you are what you eat. So eat what you want to be. Hit that subscribe button if you want to watch more of our videos. Look forward to seeing you soon.